Veteran Indian actor Dilip Kumar has passed away early this morning. The doyen of the Indian film industry breathed his last today at 7:30 at the Khar Hinduja Hospital after a long and protracted illness. Bollywood, of course, is already beginning to mourn the death of this legend. This legend, who by many has been called by one of the greatest actors that Indian cinema has ever seen. He has, of course, now dealing with a long, protracted illness. He had been in and out of hospital for a long time. At the age of 98 this morning, we are told that Dilip Kumar passed away at 7:30 a.m. This morning. Just yesterday, of course, Saira Bano, his wife, had spoken about how she was hopeful that he could come out of this illness. He's been in hospital for a while, this time that he was in hospital. However, that was not to be. He's passed away this morning at 7:30. He was at the Khar Hinduja Hospital. 98 is when he was 98 years old when he passed away. But what a legacy he leaves behind him. This man, this frail man that you see on your screens right now, has the biggest body of work that Bollywood perhaps has ever seen. He's been awarded by the Padma Bhushan in 1991, the Dada Saheb Phalke Award in 1994, and India's second highest civilian honor as well, the Padma Vibhushan in 2015. Yesha is reporting from the Hinduja Hospital. Yesha, a sad day for Indian cinema, a veteran actor Dilip Kumar passing away.
That's right, Nicole. So what has really happened over the last 15 days is what we saw was Dilip Sahab was admitted to hospital around 20 days back, following which he was discharged and again admitted. His family had mentioned that he is being admitted due to age-related illnesses, and there were news coming in from his family that he was stable. However, we'd seen that he was constantly complaining of age-related illnesses, and as a result of which there were several complaints such as breathlessness by him. But this morning what we've seen is that a message has been issued by his doctor, that is Dr. Jaleel Parkar, wherein he has mentioned that he has passed away. So what we see is that it's a sad day for the entire industry, because Dilip Sahab, aged 98, was highly respected in the entire Bollywood circles. But after his long illness, he has passed away this morning at 7:30 a.m.
Right, absolutely. As you're pointing out, of course, Saira Bano, on Monday had just spoken about how she was hopeful. Okay, on the phone line with me is Dr. Jaleen. Good morning, Dr. Jaleen. You were treating him, and of course it is an extremely sad day when we hear the news of the passing away of one of the greatest actors of Bollywood. We understand that he suffered from age-related issues.
Yes, sadly so. He passed away today morning at 7:30 a.m. in the presence of his cardiologist, who has been seeing him for the last more than 20 years. His name is Dr. Nitin Gokhale. In his presence, he breathed his last. He had really a good innings of 98 years. I think we were all praying that he should have completed his century. But God has his own ways, and I think we all must respect, this is not the time to talk much about him, rather than pray for him that his soul rests in peace in heaven.
Absolutely. Dr. Parkar, of course, you've also had a long association, because he was being treated at the hospital, at the Hinduja Hospital, for a while now. But, as you said, let's remember his greatness, his body of work, and what a humble human being he was.
Absolutely. I mean, he was a person who had charisma, who brought name and fame not only to our country, India, but I think internationally he put us on the global platform. As much as Hollywood stars, I think he was revered much more than the Hollywood stars too. Hats off to him, and I think his memories and what all he has done for Bollywood as well as for the country shall never be forgotten.
Absolutely, Dr. Parker. Thank you for joining us this morning. As Dr. Parker was pointing out, what a humble human being, what a doyen really of Bollywood. He was one of the greatest film stars that ever lived. His body of work, was around 50 years, and he was awarded with the Bharat Ratna. He had the Dada Saheb Phalke Award. He was someone in Bollywood who was respected by everybody, from the youngest to the oldest. He's someone who had the respect of everybody in Bollywood. And in a sense, a lot of film actors have tried to imitate him, whether it's Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan or Amir Khan. All of these actors have at some time tried to recreate the magic, perhaps, that was Dilip Kumar. His biggest hit, of course, was Mughal-e-Azam. And his body of work, as I was earlier pointing out, spanned nearly 50 years. He was someone who was celebrated internationally as well. Dilip Kumar this morning passed away at about 7:30 a.m. He had a lot of age-related issues. Of course, he'd been in and out of hospital for a while now. And just on Monday, Saira Bano, his wife, was hoping that he'd pull through of this latest illness. He had been discharged just a few days ago from hospital, however, had to be taken back to hospital due to age-related illnesses. But as we have been talking about his body of work, Satyajit Ray, one of the greatest filmmakers of India, actually described him as the ultimate method actor. Just to give you a sense of what this great Bollywood actor was, he debuted at the age in 1944, actually, in the film Jwar Bhata. It was, of course, produced by Bombay Talkies, which at that point in time was one of the biggest production houses. His career spanned over 6 decades with over 60 films. Films like Andaz, Aan, Devdas, which was in 1955, another terrific film that was remade, of course, later with Shah Rukh Khan starring in it, Azad in 1955. The iconic Mughal-e-Azam, of course, 1960. Who could forget Mughal-e-Azam? And Ganga Jamuna in 1961. These films, of course, perhaps fall under the list of his best works. Now, in 1976, Dilip Kumar, of course, took a 5-year break from his film performances and returned with a character role in the film Kranti in 1981. Kranti, of course, itself was a film, which was talked of a great deal. Other films, of course, include Karma in 1986. In Karma, of course, younger audiences perhaps will relate to Karma, which was released in 1986, and Saudagar 1991. The millennials perhaps will not be able to relate to how great a doyen of acting this man was. Dilip Kumar, of course, has been honored with the Padma Bhushan in 1991. He was honored with the Dada Saheb Phalke Award in 1994, and of course India's second highest civilian award, the Padma Vibhushan, in 2015. He was also nominated to the Rajya Sabha, that's the upper house of Parliament, for a term, and not just in India. His work, as I was saying, has been celebrated across the world. The government of Pakistan also honored him with its highest civilian honor, the Nishan-e-Imtiaz, in 1997. Of course, Dilip Kumar was married now to Saira Bano. Yesha is joining me also. Yesha is reporting from outside the hospital where he was being treated. Yesha, give us a sense of what's happening around you. We understand that for Bollywood, this is a monumental loss.
That's right. So the Bollywood industry was expecting that, like even Dr. Zalil Parker mentioned, that he would survive for longer because he had been fighting. In fact, he has been out of hospital many a times over the last 1 to 2 years. And despite that, like we had seen, even his wife Saira Bano mentioned that he was doing well. He had a fighting spirit of it, and as a result of which we've seen that people were hoping that he'd survive for a bit longer. But now it's sadly been announced by his doctors that he passed away because of related complications. Like it was mentioned by Dr. Zalil Parker as well, that his cardiologist was present along with him, as well as his family was quite supportive of him. But we've seen it's a great loss because he has been the doyen of film industry, as well as we've seen he had made several of the bigger movies which were now recreated as well by the Bollywood. it's a huge loss that's coming in for the Bollywood industry, because one of the most famous actor, one of the most aged actor, as well as the senior actor, has passed away now. Yes.
Right, absolutely. And of course, condolences and talk of how fantastic an actor he was are coming in. Twitter, we are seeing messages on Twitter. Rahul Gandhi, of course, has written on Twitter saying that my heartfelt condolences to the family and friends and fans of Dilip Kumar ji. His extraordinary contribution to Indian cinema will be remembered for generations to come. Also, we got a tweet from Faisal Farooqi, who says, with a heavy heart and profound grief, I announce the passing away of our beloved Dilip Sahab a few minutes ago. We are from God and to him we return, unquote. So those are tweets that are coming in on the tragic demise of Dilip Kumar Sahab, who passed away in the early hours of this morning. Of course, Dilip Kumar was also known as Muhammad Yusuf Khan. That was his original name, and thereafter he'd adopted the name of Dilip Kumar later. He was described as by many, I beg your pardon, as the ultimate method actor, and his filmography over the years is a testament of how varied his work was, of how he could take on several roles so easily and excel in them, how he could, take the role of a commoner or of a king and get into it completely and then make it an extraordinary performance. Whether you see his films from Jawar Bhata in 1944, which was the film that he debuted with, of course at that point in time was produced by the Bombay Talkies, and thereafter films like Andaz, Aan, Devdas, another phenomenal hit of Dilip Kumar Sahab, where he was appreciated for his role as a drunk lover. Thereafter, of course, Mughal-e-Azam, and who can forget that performance of Mughal-e-Azam, where he was one of the greatest performances ever in his career. But there are lists and lists, and we can go on about how terrific he was. But it was also the humility of the human being that everybody in Bollywood really talks about. And for a large number of people who are in Bollywood, it would have been an honor to have had the privilege of working with Mr. Dilip Kumar Sahib. Of course, 60 years. That's his body of work. We earlier, of course, spoke to his family doctor, Dr. Jalil, and he said that they were hopeful that he would perhaps pull out of this illness. Unfortunately, that was not to be, and he passed away at 7:30 this morning. He was, of course, awarded the Dada Saheb Phalke, that's the biggest film award, and of course was also honored with the Padma Bhushan in 1991, and India's second highest civilian award, the Padma Vibhushan. It was his contribution to Indian cinema that nominated him to the Rajya Sabha, that is the upper house of Indian Parliament, for a term. And his fame, of course, was not just restricted to our country. He had fans all over the world, and a large number of fans also came in from Pakistan. We were also given the highest civilian honor, the Nishan-e-Imtiaz, in 1997.